So I get on the internet and I'm start searching. I gotta, find someone to teach me Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. These guys around here aren't training with me. The only one that would train with me was this guy Mike Rooney. So, and he really wasn't training like all the time. Maybe our schedules weren't really meshing too good, but I really couldn't get with him too much. And he didn't really know a whole lot either. He just kind of he knew a little bit more than me. But he was just learning off VHS tapes too. I needed to find somebody that knew what the hell they were doing. So I get on the internet and I'm, looking for, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu people. So the closest one I could find was Rochester, New York. So Rochester, New York is about 3.5 hours from where I live in Erie. So I'm like, man, I gotta go up here. Didn't really have the best car. It was just a hunk of shit, but I was like, I'm going to have to risk it. And I started driving up about once a week, sometimes once every 2 weeks, as much as I absolutely could. Maybe even a couple times I made it up twice a week. But I went to Rochester. I found this guy named Kyle Saunders. At the time, he was, I want to say he was a purple belt. Maybe a brown belt. I think he was a purple belt when I first met him. And he had a school inside. He had a school inside this karate inside like a Tang Sudo gym. So there was a Tang Sudo karate school, and then he had some time slots where he was teaching jiu-jitsu out of this place. So I was going up there, and he was super cool. He was actually a really good. He was a really good coach. He was a good instructor. So I repped him for a few of my fights. Got up there as much as I could. He promoted me to, second or third stripe white belt. And, I just kept training up there as much as I could. So I trained with, Kyle Saunders for a while. And then, Kyle was a student of Roy Harris. So I started looking up Roy Harris. And Roy Harris was really good. I got hooked up with him, and I'm like, he had a instructor's course that you could take, and he did them all over the country, and he did one that was the closest one I could find was in Maine. So I'm like, I'm going to take this instructor's course. It cost, I think it was $500. So I sent Roy $500, and believe me, I don't have much money at the time. So I don't have a vehicle to get to Maine. I think it was in Portland, Maine. So I take the Greyhound bus to Maine, and luckily, one of the guys that was there, he let me stay at his house, and he was taking the course, so he let me crash at his house, which was super cool. So I went to Maine and became an instructor under Roy Harris and started training under Roy Harris. And that instructor's course was super cool. It was a week long, and he gave us this big book. It was an instructor's manual. I still have it, man, and it's got gold in it, man. Roy is a really, really super good instructor. I would compare him to this. This is how I compare Roy Harris. He really magnifies everything. He takes the most basic technique and he breaks it down into tiny, tiny, tiny pieces. So the best way I would explain Roy Harris is this. If you're going to have a cake cooking contest, you're going to have a baking contest, you're making a cake. Everyone uses the same ingredients for a cake in this contest. So what really is going to make one person make a better cake than the next person? So let's just say cake you put sugar in a cake. This is how Roy Harris would break it down. So, I'm just going to take I'm going to take a 1 cup scoop, I'm going to scoop it, and I'm going to put it in my cake. Roy would magnify it down to I could have a cup of sugar, he could have a cup of sugar, but he's going to magnify it down to how many grains of sugar are in that cup. So he breaks it down to minuscule pieces. So, maybe a cup of sugar has 1,200,096 grains of sugar in it, whether I'm just scooping and putting sugar in it. So he magnifies it down to how many grains of sugar are in that cup. He just breaks it down real small. He's the best instructor for sheer basics. Like your basics will be top notch under Roy Harris. He's really big on the basics, and he was actually a good. He didn't really compete much, but he was a good competitor himself. I think you can look it up on YouTube. But he fought Jean-Jacques Machado, man, and he really gave him a run for his money. And I think Roy Harris was a newish black belt at the time, and Roy is part of the Dirty Dozen, like one of the first 12 black belts to get his black belt in the United States, first Americans to get his black belt. Roy's been doing jiu-jitsu since the beginning. And he's also done a ton of other martial arts. Like, I really don't understand where this guy gets time to become an expert at all these different martial arts. Jeet Kune Do, Savate. He would do that. Roy did a little bit of that stick fighting. If you guys don't know what stick fighting is, there's this really popular group of people in California called the Dog Brothers. I think it's called the Dog Brothers, but they like stick fight. They wear hockey masks and they hit each other with these sticks, and they'll fuck you up with those sticks. So Roy messed around with that a little bit. Roy's done a little bit of everything, and at this instructor's course, he was really teaching you how to teach. He wanted you to teach. Like, he told us we had to, when we got home, he wanted us to read certain books. He was really teaching you how to be a good businessman and how to be a good instructor. We would practice like, what if you had a blind guy come into the gym, he would have us pretend we were trying to teach a blind guy. And it's really difficult when you really put yourself into that situation, because he's like, if you're going to run a grappling business, you have to be able to serve all different kinds of people. You don't know who's going to come into your gym, women, kids, a blind person, maybe a disabled person. So he would teach us situations where we'd have to try to learn how to do that. And that was pretty cool. So I spent a week in Maine doing this instructor's course, and he's teaching us techniques, escape and mount, and basic guard stuff. And then there was a guy up there I hung out with. His name was Trent. I can't remember his name, but he was really good. I think he moved to Florida, and he's actually I've looked him up in the past. I know he's still with Roy. Actually, he's probably one of the most original guys that are still with Roy from back in my day. And I think he has a gym in Florida, and he's really, really good, super duper good. He's really good. So I trained with Roy. Me and Roy got along really, really good. We kind of just took a real close liking to each other. Like, at one point in time, he even wanted me to move out to San Diego with him, and he was going to pay for my flight, and I was going to go out there. I assume I was going to probably be teaching at his gym or whatever. And I don't know. I probably should have went, but I didn't. I had a girlfriend I was with at the time, and you just you're kind of just attached to the city you're in. I probably should have went, but I didn't. But I ended up getting my blue belt from Roy. I was a white belt for 3 years. Got my blue belt under Roy. And I was a blue belt for a year. And then I got my purple belt from Roy as well. And Roy always did test for his belts. It was really like, I kind of feel like it's different for everybody, but my tests were always like, it was just live grappling. Roy would live grapple me, and I think he would like basically just try to make it quit. I didn't have any quit in me. I was really hard-nosed dude, so I think that's why he liked me too, because I was super hard-nosed, and and I was a fighter. So I passed those tests. I think hindsight being 2020, I think I got my purple belt a little too soon, but he probably gave it to me because I was a competitor, and he knew that I would eventually grow into the belt. Roy was really big into, like, it's okay if you grow into the belt. And Roy's ideas of jiu-jitsu was your blue belt is basically like where you learn how to escape from white to blue. You're learning how to escape. Blue to purple belt. You're kind of this is kind of where you start becoming. You start finding yourself in the game. You really want to develop your bottom game from blue to purple, and then from purple to brown. Roy expected. That's when you kind of start developing your top game, your pressure game. And then he said, when you get your black belt, you're kind of just okay at guard passing, okay at your guard, okay. Everything, you're just kind of just okay at everything across the board, but then you kind of just refine yourself a little bit. So I got to purple belt with Roy, and then things kind of went sour with me and Roy. This John Bruno guy that I don't like, and I told Roy what he did to me, okay, about how he set me up and almost got me fucking killed and jumped with this Korean dude. People in Erie, in my town, I felt like they were like haters and jealous of me. So regardless, they tried to make it so no one would work out with me, and then I would just find a way. I would go to Rochester. I'd find a way. I got this wrestler from Embro University into jiu-jitsu, this guy, Corey Kilburn. He ended up becoming a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I trained with him as much as I could. Mike Rooney at the time, I trained with him as much as I could. Me and Mike don't get along anymore. So I'll tell you about that later. He's a bitch. He ended up turning into a bitch. So, John Bruno got some deal up at Mercyhurst College, and he was like, I don't know what kind of job he was doing up there. I don't know if he was working for them up there, but he got involved with something up there in the workout room where he could get this wrestling room, and he was teaching a class up there to the Mercyhurst students, and he obviously heard of Roy, probably because I was pushing Roy's stuff. I was selling Roy's VHS tapes at the fights I'd go to, t-shirts and stuff. I was doing all kinds of stuff like that, promoting Roy. And then fucking John Bruno decides to get a hold of Roy and ask him if he'll do a seminar at Mercyhurst College. So Roy calls me and he's telling me, oh, we got to talk. I said, okay. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to be doing this seminar for John, and I just wanted to talk to you about it. I'm like, yeah. I said, I understand that's how you got to make your money. I get it. But I was like, that'd be fucked up if you let him in our association. I mean, I got a huge problem with that dude. I mean, he's never apologized for what he did to me. And he literally fucking, he tried to get everyone against me in Erie, and he set me up to get beat up in that Korean dude's gym. And he's like, all right, let me talk to John, and blah, blah, blah. So that was the last I heard of it. And Roy went and did the seminars up there. He did one, I think, probably once a year up there. But then I found out that Roy let him in the organization. I seen on the internet that John was repping Roy. And I called Roy and I was like, what the fuck, dude? What the fuck is up with that? And he's like, yeah, I was going to talk to you about that. And, I think you guys should let bygones be bygones. I think you guys need to work it out and talk it out. I said, that should have been done before this happened. So I was hard-nosed and I was just like, you know what? Fuck that, Roy. I'm done. And I cut ties with Roy, and I'm an angry person, so I would go online and I would fucking talk shit on Roy Harris. I was like fucking talking mad shit on him. Me and him are cool now. We mended up our past or whatever. Let bygones be bygones. I'm over it. Time heals most wounds, so I'm not mad at Roy anymore. So it's whatever. I ended up turning out to be a better thing anyways.